Have you ever thought about the consequences of a toxic relationship? What's the worst thing that can happen after you dump a toxic partner? Stalking is the maximum that a normal person can think of, but murder is something really unexpected. But this is what happened to Molly McLaren after she dumped her toxic boyfriend, Joshua Stimpson. At first, the things that Joshua did after the breakup were exactly what normal people expect toxic people to do, but little did Molly think that her life would be ended by him. Joshua was certain of only one thing: he was not going to let Molly leave this relationship alive. Before starting the story of this dangerously toxic Joshua Stimpson, we would like to send our sincere condolences to the family and all the loved ones of Molly McLaren because of the loss that they have endured. Who was Molly McLaren? The one we talked about, Molly McLaren, was born on June 26, 1994, in the picture-perfect town of Cobham in South England. The parents of Molly described their daughter as a very kind-hearted and beautiful girl inside and out. While growing up, Molly struggled with bulimia and anxiety, but in 2015, she was ready to give herself a fresh start because she had worked on herself and overcome the issues. She enrolled in the University of Kent to pursue a degree in exercise, sports, and health education. She was doing very well at the university. She had joined organizations and even started a fitness blog where she shared inspirational quotes and workout videos. And then the next year began, 2016, the year she thought that she was ready to be in a relationship and start her new journey of love. Molly downloaded the popular dating app Tinder to find the perfect match. And it was on Tinder that Molly swiped right on 26-year-old Joshua Stimpson. Stimpson had grown up in Stoke-on-Trent before leaving to Woodham, near Rochester, just 7 miles from Molly. Nobody could have predicted that Molly would be searching for her future murderer on the Tinder app. Joshua Stimpson. Joshua was the son of a divorced couple. He, just like Molly, had also struggled with mental health issues at a young age. He was 12 years old when his parents got divorced, and he was given into custody of his father. This did not sit well with Joshua, who felt abandoned by his mother as a teenager. As a teenager, Joshua was seen as an outpatient at the Kingsley House Mental Health Clinic in Kent, but he refused to seek counseling for his depression. He was eventually prescribed antidepressants by 2016. He met Molly on the Tinder app in 2016, and previously, he was in a relationship with the girl, but ended the relationship when he spat on her face. Although he lied about the relationships with Molly, he said to her that he had never been in a relationship before. He and Molly started chatting and shared their stories with each other. They thought they would get along because they had both struggled with depression and were fitness enthusiasts. So, finally, it was November of 2016 when they decided to meet in person. Start of the relationship. As a result, they began meeting frequently and spending time together. Joshua was not much liked by the friends and family of Molly because he didn't respect them. He seemed to have no regard for boundaries, and if Molly told him she couldn't meet him that day, he'd show up at the house anyway because he wanted her undivided attention. In short, he had many red flags. Former co-workers at his workplace described 2 completely different sides to the serial killer at his trial. One, he was a charming, bright man who stood out by a mile when he applied for a job as a double-glazing salesman. The other was a depressed, irrational loner who couldn't engage in conversation. Nature of Joshua. So, what was the nature of Joshua? In the hearings for the case of Joshua, the court heard from 2 women, Alexandra Dale and Leah Hubbard, who had both dated the killer at various points and who described him as controlling and possessive. Miss Dale testified in court via video link that Stimpson tried to call her 25 times in one day after a night out together before things deteriorated. While she was on vacation, her controlling boyfriend threatened to fly out and drown her and slashed all of her car's tires. Miss Hubbard shared a similar story about how the two met, only for Stimpson to become increasingly controlling when she was not always available to spend time with him. After he followed her around a Maidstone bar on one occasion and spat a drink over her on another, She eventually told him she would call the cops if he returned to her flat. Molly's mother, Joanne, also talked about the nature of Joshua. She said her daughter first complained about Stimpson's childish behavior when he quit his job shortly after the two started dating. And as with Stimpson's previous relationships, he soon began to behave similarly towards Molly. One of their first major fights was described in court as her catching him recording and videoing her so he could have things to use against her. During their brief acquaintance in 2013, witness Alexandra Dale described exactly the same behavior from Stimpson. Stimpson turned nasty after the couple divorced in June, posting abusive and false claims on Facebook pages and following her. The court was told by prosecutor Philip Bennett's QC that it was clear he had problems with women, describing his aggressive behavior after breakups. Various suggestions for Stimpson's manners were made, from his mother having left his family when he was young to underlying personality problems characterized by a possessive approach to women. The incident. The possessive and controlling nature of Joshua was getting out of hand, so Molly decided to end things with him. Molly gave him several chances, but he was not showing any improvements. So once they were at a party for Molly's friend's 23rd birthday, Molly told Joshua that she would no longer be in a relationship with him. Molly's friends remembered the incident as the time when they saw Joshua's true rage in his eyes and how he was shouting and acting at the party. Joshua began harassing Molly online after the relationship ended, posting derogatory messages and photos. Out of revenge for Molly breaking up with him, Stimpson started bombarding Molly's Facebook with cruel accusations, including allegations of drug use. He also reposted private text messages and accused her of lying to her family. Molly's mother, Joanne, said that after contacting Facebook, the posts were taken down. She says, "They said if he continued to do it, they would block him." More posts did appear, but those posts were looked at in isolation, not as part of Stimpson's continued harassment, and Stimpson was not blocked. Rory Innes, the CEO of the Cyber Helpline, tells the documentary, "They weren't looking at the bigger picture and the pattern of behavior Joshua was displaying, and that was stalking." McLaren had told friends on social media that she was afraid of her ex-partner and went to the North Kent police station with her mother, Joanna. Just 2 days before murdering McLaren, a police officer called Stimpson and warned him to stop or face prosecution. Stimpson was caught on CCTV buying a knife from Asda in Chatham 2 days before the murder. He also purchased a pickaxe from Homebase less than 30 minutes later. Molly was working out at the gym on June 29, 2018, when she was approached by Stimpson, who had been stalking her since they split 12 days before. Before returning to her Citroen in the Chatham Dockside Outlet car park, the terrified student confronted her ex and asked if he was following her. Molly was probably scared and was expecting that something bad was going to happen, so she texted her mother, Joanne, at around 10:45 a.m., saying, "Mum, he's turned up at the gym and come next to me." Before exchanging 20 messages with a pal about Stimpson's behavior, the 23-year-old had no idea her killer was lying in wait with a bag containing the 2 knives and pickaxe he used to butcher her. Once he was in the driver's seat, Stimpson abandoned the vehicle, yanked open his door, and launched a violent flurry of knife blows on her. It was reported that he stabbed Molly 75 times. Molly tried to fight him off, screaming and beeping her horn, but she was unable to cop up and died within minutes. Trial of Joshua. After the brutal murder, before his trial at Maidstone Crown Court, Joshua Stimpson admitted manslaughter but denied murder. Judge Adele Williams sentenced him to a minimum of 26 years in prison, saying, "This was a cruel, calculated, and cowardly act." Stimpson of Woodham High Street in Rochester was told by the judge that he might never be released because of his wickedness. She added, "You slit her throat while repeatedly stabbing her. You were determined to punish her for finishing with you. You were seeking revenge." Stimpson, who had been in a 7-month relationship with Miss McLaren before she ended it 2 weeks before her death, was convicted in less than 4 hours by the jury. The police recovered 2 Stanley knives and a pickaxe from Stimpson's car at the scene. The judge told Stimpson, "You are a highly dangerous young man, and you will pose a very considerable risk to women for a very considerable period in the future." He was in the end given a 26-year life sentence. He was repeatedly referred to a mental health clinic in Gillingham in the years that followed, and he developed a hypersensitivity to any rejection. Stimpson, according to psychiatrist Dr. Philip Joseph, does not have a personality disorder, but has narcissistic traits and showed no remorse for killing Miss McLaren. According to Det Sergeant Ali Wharton, Stimpson is a cold and calculated killer, rather than someone who lacks the mental capacity to control himself. In the end, Joshua got what he deserved for the brutal act he committed, but Molly suffered from something she didn't deserve. This relationship and this story are a lesson for all.